undergraduate affairs. She's also the ERCAD woman. So she is also serves on our ISC. And so she has reviewed a lot of these degree plans that you see here today. Any questions? Oh, one more thing. Samira will be over here timing everybody and holding up the card. So even though you have a 10 to 12 minute range, she'll hold up the sign saying when there are 2 minutes remaining, 1 minute remaining, and stop. Stop is where it is at 12 minutes. You can finish your sentence, but you must stop if you haven't gotten there already. Yeah. Any questions before we get going with Paul? All right. Oh, and McAlpin will be videoing and putting you all up as YouTube stars.
Fantastic.
No pressure, Paul.
This is going to go viral.
Confidence is good.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Vanik, and I'm about to talk to you about dentistry, but before I do that, I want to begin with some acknowledgments. First of all, thank you to Professor Eric Brown from the IDS program. You've been an exceptional faculty mentor as well as a friend, so thank you so much. I'd also like to thank my two research mentors, Mr. Barney Johnson, who's a retired hospital administrator, and Dr. Robin Majeski from the Erickson School. I'd like to thank the entire IDS program. The faculty are just exceptional individuals. The students are also an incredible group of people, so I've learned a lot by being a part of this program. And finally, I'd like to thank my family and friends, particularly Andres Camacho and Josh Massey, who are IDS graduates that talked me into checking out the program. All right, so let's get into this. First of all, how many people in here have ever gotten fast food? Excellent. This plays into my presentation well. Now, did you do it because you thought it was a great decision? Raise your hand if you did. Me neither. Me neither. How many of you have done it because it was convenient? Yeah. Yep. All right, so we're all guilty. We're all in the same boat. We all get what I'm about to say. It's interesting to me that fast food, which we've all done, which we've all gotten for the sake of convenience, and we all know was a bad idea, we all made a decision that we knew was bad for us based off of convenience. So that shows us something. That shows us the power of convenience. Now, what if there was a way to use convenience to make people make good decisions? Well, that is what dynamic dentistry is all about, providing a convenient solution that helps people to make good health decisions. Now, when I started this research process, I had one goal, and that was to differentiate the dentist. The traditional solo practitioner business model has been the same since the early 1900s. And as an entrepreneur, I look at that and I say, all right, well, great, that model served us well, but is there a way that we can deliver care better, that we can serve people better? So in researching that, I came across a potential solution, mobile dental units. Now, I'd never heard of these before, and basically what they are dental buses. So it's a bus that can go to a location. They've got operatories on the bus, and they can service people there. Then they can drive to another location and service people there. So I thought, all right, well, great, this has the makings of being a solution to differentiating practice. But I had to question, is this going to be feasible? So my secondary research question is, can a small dental care provider in Maryland profit from adding mobile dental units with an integrated business-to-business sales strategy to their office? So let's talk about how I researched this question. My three primary disciplines were public health, economics, and entrepreneurship. Now, each of these disciplines played an important role in the research, but I want to highlight two concepts. The first concept is from economics, and that's the concept of an economy of scale. Now, what that means is factors that reduce the marginal costs of units by increasing the volume of units produced. Now, in English, what that means is, say you want to make fortune cookies. You build a fortune cookie factory and you make one cookie. That's an expensive cookie, Adam. But let's say you made 3 billion cookies. That spreads out the cost of your fortune cookie factory over 3 billion outputs. So the cost per cookie drops significantly. So that's what an economy of scale is. Now, within entrepreneurship, my two concepts are value and value addition. Now, value refers to a factor that influences someone's buying decisions. Value addition means either creating or increasing one of those factors. So you could add value to someone by decreasing the price, or making a better product, or making something more convenient. In this project, the primary point of value addition is making dental care more convenient. So my research methods had two different categories. I had qualitative and quantitative research. Now, within my qualitative research, I used economics to identify economies of scale. I used entrepreneurship to identify points of value and where value could be added. My quantitative research was done through economics. I used the net present value method and the internal rate of return method to examine a mobile dental unit as an investment. So what did I find? Well, my first qualitative finding was the mobile dental unit solution. I'd never heard of these things before when I started this research. And this is a picture of them. The way that I discovered these buses was by reading in a public health dental journal, because they've been used for over 40 years in public health dentistry. So as an entrepreneur, when I saw this, I realized, this is a potential way to add value to people. This is a potential way to make dental care more convenient. But at this point, I used my first interdisciplinary strategy to narrow my entrepreneurial perspective. Because as an entrepreneur, you've identified the value, but there's a lot of people who could benefit from more convenient dental care. So the economist can come in and tell the entrepreneur, all right, well, wait a second. There's some other factors to take into consideration here. This is an example of a bridging strategy. The bridging strategies are interdisciplinary techniques that were developed by Matthew Miller and Veronica Boyce-Mencia in a Harvard graduate education study. And this strategy, advancing through checks and balances, uses one discipline to hold another accountable. So moving back to the particular situation, the entrepreneurs identified a point of value, but the economist says, all right, well, wait a second. You need people who are going to pay for this because you're a business. In order to run, you need your business model to work. Also, in order to keep your costs down, you need an economy of scale. So by blending these two disciplinary perspectives together, I realized that the ideal location to put these mobile dental units was large businesses and business parks, because you have concentrated populations of professionals who could very much so benefit from the convenience of care being right outside the door. Now, my second qualitative finding was the potential to improve public health. Now, this is the beauty of interdisciplinary research. When I set out to do this project, I wasn't even thinking about this. But the more I thought about the connections that existed between disciplines, the more I realized that there really is potential here to benefit public health. And let me talk about how I came to this conclusion. Now, there's different common ground strategies that Alan Repko defines in his interdisciplinary research book. This particular technique is called extension. That's where you extend a concept from one discipline to another discipline in order to create common ground between the two. So with this diagram, you start with public health. Public health has this concept of mobile dental units. The entrepreneur can look over at public health and say, all right, great, you have a substantial way to add value to people. And that extends the concept from public health to entrepreneurship. Now next, the economist looks up at the entrepreneur and says, all right, this is the makings of a good business model, but in order for it to work economically, you need economies of scale and you need paying patients. And by advancing through checks and balances, you're able to extend the concept from entrepreneurship to economics. And this puts you in a unique position because at this point you've developed a sustainable business model that increases accessibility to care. And that extends the concept back to public health, where you've provided an avenue whereby the population's health can be improved. So my quantitative findings were quite simply MDUs are feasible. Now, the quantitative section of my research was really living out my second bridging strategy, which is bridging the explanation-action gap. Now, in this strategy, economics provides an explanation for how the population health can be improved. So economics bridges to public health. Now, in providing that explanation, I created a financial model and forecasted 3 different scenarios: worst, probable, and best. And in all 3 scenarios, if you look at the net present value, it was positive. Now, net present value basically means how much are you going to profit off of an investment. And so based off my model, this looks to be a very profitable investment. So it's a sustainable business model that increases accessibility to care. Now let me talk about my research limitations before I conclude. The first limitation is that some of the variables in my model were estimated. Now, without doing further market research that was beyond the scope of this project, I can't give as solid of a conclusion that this absolutely will work. My second limitation is that I don't have a way of testing this as a public health benefit. Because at this point, all I have are statistics for people not utilizing service and the realization of the power of convenience. So while I can make an inference, I can't make a solid deductive argument. All right, so what were my conclusions? Well, first of all, differentiate the dentist. You can do that with an MDU solution. And secondly, to answer my research question, yes, MDUs are financially feasible. Now, playing into the bigger picture, I want to talk about a case study from a company called Studio Dental. I found out about these guys in the middle of researching this proposed model, and it actually lends credibility to my research because basically they're doing the same thing. They're a company that's out in California, and thank you, Samira. And the way they work is they have dental trailers, which are essentially dental buses, except they're pulled by a truck instead of their own self-contained engine. And they go to different locations within San Francisco. They have a schedule posted online that people can observe and set an appointment for. They also work with businesses, which is exactly what I'm proposing. Now, this builds on that particular research by proposing it in a different scenario. San Francisco is right near a lot of tech company headquarters. There's different people out there, different cultures out there. So it definitely works out there, and it has potential to work out here. So that's how it relates to the bigger picture of the research that's been done right now. All right, and that's it. Thank you. Yes.
In your research, did you come across anything about how these would be beneficial in low-income communities?
Yes, so actually that's where I read about them first. And it's a very good insight because what you're able to do with a mobile dental unit is spread the costs of an office across multiple underserved communities. So yes, they are being used that way.
But is your goal is to bring this to an affluent community? You're talking about business parks, tech centers.
Yes, ma'am.
So did you look at whether there'd be acceptance there?
I'm sorry?
Whether the mobile unit is really pigeonholed, I think, as a public health measure, as something you do in a poor community, you take it to a place that's under-resourced.
Sure.
So are there some sort of PR issues to address?
Yeah, so that is a very good point. The way that Studio Dental managed to get around that, they actually hired an architecture firm to build out their trailers. So they're extremely beautiful aesthetically, and I think that would be essential in building out this particular business, because you are fighting against that impression of what a mobile dental unit is.
So is your proposition that a sole practitioner dentist would add this?
Yes.
That would be their business.
So they wouldn't have an office anymore?
No, they could still have an office. This is, honestly, for the return on investment for this addition to the office, it's a relatively low entry cost. It's around $400,000 for one of these units, and over a 12-year period, the estimated return is over $2 million. So it's a very good investment.
How does, so
that's the capital cost for the unit. It would seem that you would also need to have additional capital costs or long-term costs for personnel to drive, to do cleanings. I mean, if you're not in the office to do your regularly scheduled cleanings, if you're a dental hygienist, you would need some more people. So did you take that into consideration, or are there days you wouldn't be in the office at all?
So the model takes into consideration particularly the mobile dental unit. Now the idea isn't to transition current patients to the mobile practice, but to go and get new patients for the mobile practice.
Mhm.
So yes, all the personnel, all the costs of equipment and machinery were taken into consideration with the model.
Okay.
Yes, Marcus?
So most companies in business parks probably have health insurance that covers dental. Would those mobile dentist units be, are they able to be covered with the dental plan that most companies already have, or how does that work out?
Yeah, so a couple answers to that. So